You've had quite the off season, we'll call it, or growth season, however you want to spin it. Do you think that you've put on quite a bit of tissue since 2016?
Not at all. I'm actually smaller, but that's why I'm not competing too. A lot of it was injury. Now I'm starting to get closer to the contest size and shape. But right now, as of this morning, I was the morning body weight that I was the last time I competed. Body fat wise, I look like I'm about 8 weeks out. So this would be the equivalent of me being 8 or 9 pounds heavier coming down in terms of leanness. So the problem is some of the natural pro guys that I'm friends with that I've kind of seen on social media and stuff, eating a regimented, especially like a bulk diet, the 6-7 meals a day, which I always did even on my in season, it's really not that healthy in my opinion, especially now that my mindset is more towards anti-aging and longevity. I'm not saying the whole intermittent fasting thing is something that has to be done, but I just think that when the body has to assimilate food every 2.5 to 3.5 hours on the hour, the body never gets a break and the body's constantly digesting, the liver's constantly working, and I haven't been doing that. And that's the biggest difference. Before it was always obsessive, not obsessive, but like this muscle group and this has to be rounder and fuller and this and that. I still know that in the back of my mind, but I'm going to the gym every morning before I start work more as a mental clarity. Indirectly, as a side effect of that, my physique is starting to make improvements again. Natural bodybuilders have to diet down slow. They got to diet long and slow, regardless of how much body fat you have. But I've always been obsessed with trying to make the scale not go down, but lose body fat. I do everything basically the opposite of the traditional bodybuilder. When I started tracking, when I start my diet, and the last couple shows, I actually just had my dad do my diet, and we really pushed the envelope in terms of getting bigger without gaining any fat because I'm eating picture perfect because I'm so used to worst case scenario. So I don't take hardly any muscle building supplements in the off season. I just rely on the food. Then all of a sudden I start bringing supplements in for growth little by little as the diet's going up. But then as the diet comes down, I actually jack my supplements up even more. So I take more muscle building supplements as the diet's coming down, because when the diet's coming down, the body's already used to, it's going to make that little adjustment. Okay, I'm going to start losing weight. I'm going to start losing fat. But if I'm taking more and more creatine or more and more nitric oxide or whatever, it's just going to help me get better pumps. It's going to help me. The body's trying to grow. And that's all of a sudden my dad's like, your weight isn't moving. So he almost gets nervous. But then every time he looks at me, I look better and better and better because I did my supplement regimen, not him. Like I said, with my GNC background and my knowledge of supplementation and things like that, I'll add fat burning supplements in too. And I jack that up as well, even when the diet's coming down. But I don't take it at the beginning when I'm coming up. Part of that too is I think I almost took a small page out of Kiyoshi Moody's book. Not that he has a book, but if you look at, I remember seeing things that he would post years ago. That's why sometimes people never believed he was natural, because he was growing into a contest and he used to literally not brag about it, but would like make it a point and be like, listen, I weighed this at the start of my contest phase. I'm leaner and I'm 10 pounds heavier. And I said, that's interesting. I think it's because he was doing something very, very similar to what I was doing. He was not doing everything 100% in his off season. And then he was going balls to the wall in season. The diet was even absolutely to the number in terms of I knew what I was taking in and taking out. And then, like I said, I was jacking up my muscle building and fat burning supplements as the diet was coming up, but then I was increasing it even more as it was coming down. So my body, it didn't want to lose weight. I was growing at the beginning and actually getting leaner, but then as I was coming down, I was coming down very, very slow, but I should have lost much more weight than what I did because of what I did. And that only worked because I wasn't doing anything in my off season. If I was taking a bunch of supplements in the off season, this whole plan wouldn't work.
What's your off season weight? And then what was the weight when you compete, for perspective for those listening?
The last season in 2016, I want to say I'm like literally just below 6 feet tall. But I started, I want to say around 201 in the morning, and I was pretty damn lean. I think I was probably around 7.5%. At the beginning of the diet, probably about 10 weeks in, I got all the way up to 212 in the morning, which for me was like the biggest I ever was. So I went from 201 to 212. So I gained 11 pounds the first, I want to say 9 weeks of the diet.
And what do you compete at?
And then I came all the way down. I dieted another 20 weeks and I was 191.3 the morning of.
But what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, is that you started at 200, you gained 10 pounds or 12 pounds. Is that right? And
Yep.
you're saying that you look better.
I was always a little leaner at the peak than I was at the start, but dramatically bigger and rounder. And then I started coming down slow from that high point. And at that point, my metabolism was just through the roof because my dad pushed the envelope as far as he could. And I also didn't do any cardio on purpose. So then at the very end, I would do like a tad bit of walking, but I usually just used posing practice as my cardio because I needed the stamina and endurance for that anyway. And it's getting harder for me to pose and hold the pose longer as I get older. So I really needed that practice. I didn't need it in terms of how to hit the pose. I just needed it literally just to be able to hold it.
Interesting. So that's what your dad was saying when he mentioned, because he did mention this when I was speaking with him about adding food prior to the actual, we're going to start to drop weight. This is literally what you're saying right now, right?
Yeah. So he's a big proponent on that. I just take it the next step with the supplements. And I was helping my dad and my brother with their supplements too, you know, at the peak of our competing. And I think it made a huge difference for both of them. I took stuff that people thought was absolutely pointless and all marketing.
But you think it had a benefit?
Yeah. I think some of them, like, you know, even one of the supplements by MHP was called MyoX. It was literally like an egg yolk powder, and it was supposed to reduce your myostatin by like 2.5%. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to try this. I don't care if it reduces it 1%. For me, I just believe in some of the things that these magazines tell you. And then I do a little bit of research on the active ingredients, and then I just give it a shot. There was an ingredient that I took. I still take it now, just not as often, bovine colostrum. The majority of it is it's just good for your immune system. I happen to think that it helps with muscle growth, and that's just one of my things. And if you know at certain times to take some of these supplements, that makes a difference too. And I know when to take certain things on an empty stomach, pre-workout, intra-workout, post, before bed. So that was just as important as my training and my diet. What I used to try to do was focus on one major supplement and do the proper dosing. And then if you were trying to make more progress, then you start stacking other products. You know what I'm saying? But try to just utilize one ingredient, let that do the work. So let's say if it was creatine, take creatine pre and post workout and just focus on that for a month or two, but then get off creatine, but then do something else in its place. See, some people, they'll just take creatine the whole year. You got to still cycle off of these products so then your body doesn't get immune to it. So you have to replace it with something else. Like even something like HMB, people think is pointless because there's not a ton of studies on it or whatever. It's just a special form of calcium, but it works in preventing muscle breakdown, just like branched chain amino acids would. So by doing a high dosage of HMB at certain times of the day, you might get just as much growth off of that HMB than you did with the creatine, but it's not based off of water and fluid retention in the muscle. Getting off of certain things, but knowing what to take next. So some people believe in just intra workout. Some people think just pre, some people just think just post. I think it's good to do pre and post, or in the morning and then post workout, because think about it, you need water to activate the creatine as well. And you should be able to actually feel yourself getting fuller as you drink more water, as you get more food in you from the creatine as well. And then you just replenish your stores post workout again to start volumizing the muscle again after the workout, because that's all creatine, and even glutamine does it, but on a smaller level. It's all about cell volumization. So it's just all about getting the fluid into the muscle and then having those muscle fibers expand with water. And then it gives it a better environment to grow and to recover, is because of the additional water and fluid retention inside intracellularly into the muscle fiber. So glutamine is a cell volumizer as well, just like creatine, but at a smaller standpoint. Glutamine's actually more for gut health and for your immune system, but indirectly, better health by getting a stronger immune system can still help with recovery and muscle growth. A lot of people don't put 2 and 2 sometimes with those things together. Sometimes supplements that just benefit your health indirectly help with fat burning and muscle building.
So as far as training goes, everybody has their preferences, we'll call them. How often do you train? Are you in the gym 5-6 days a week? What's your training looking like these days, at least?
Yeah, right now I'm like 6 to 7 days a week.